So Martin, we're coming to you for the Yamaha Avantage, sorry. I can never say it right.
I think it's Avantage.
Is that right? Is it? Okay. I had a look at the A6A. I think it was last year I looked at that, maybe even the year before. I think this line's been around a little while, but this is the baby of the range, or I think the A2 is actually the baby, but this is
actually the one. The A2A is the baby. This is, there are 4 in the range currently. A4A, which I looked at, A6A, which you looked at, and the A8A, which I believe is an 11-channel receiver. The one you looked at is 9. This one is 7. I guess we describe this as a budget to mid-price receiver, 7 channels of amplification, 110 watts per channel with 2 channels driven. And again, no RMS figures, but they don't seem to share those these days, with all channels driven.
Yeah, I think the best way to work that out these days is just look at the 2-channel driven and then assume that it's a quarter of that. And you're round about the right ballpark, aren't you, Ed?
It's something like that. And Yamaha, I mean, I don't want to single them out, but on occasions they've quoted power measurements on their website at 10% THD. Now, this is not the time for electron distortion, but I absolutely 100% promise you that you'll hear 10% total harmonic distortion. So it's an utterly meaningless figure. And yes, their figures are quite opaque, but yes, Mark, you're absolutely, both of you on the mark. It's going to be quite a lot less than that once all 7 are hooked up and draining.
So if 7 ear level channels aren't an option for a 7.1 or 7.2 setup, you can of course do 5.2.2 or 5.1.2, which is actually how I wired this up with my M&K speakers as 5.2.2. So 150s at the front, 150Ts for surrounds, and actually 150s overhead as well, the MP 150s, which are the slightly slimmer versions of the S150. The A4A is priced at £1,599. I'll come on to that in just a moment. But I think this receiver is great for a beginner. You know, if somebody's got a budget of £5,000, you've got £2,000 there to spend on a great 5.1 speaker system or 5.1.2 speaker system. Comes with an excellent MusicCast app with all those multi-room possibilities thrown in. And actually, the app has quite a lot of tweakability for the inner workings of the receiver as well. So I think Yamaha's done well with the MusicCast. Lots of HDMI inputs, 7 of them. HDMI 2.1 with 40 gigabits per second. So pretty much future-proof. Audio comes, of course, with all the iterations of surround sound and immersive audio, DTSX and Dolby Atmos, but no Auro 3D.
Before we go any further, we need to say goodbye to Jules, because Jules is away to play football. So, Jules, thank you very much for your time.
Yes, guys.
Catch you in the next one. Sorry to interrupt you there, Martin, but
Martin.
We'll see you later, Jules.
Cheers, Jules.
Comes with Yamaha's famous Cinema DSP. In this case, it's called Cinema DSP HD3, and within which that sits the surround AI feature with a virtualizer which can simulate the presence of other speakers. And actually, I found this worked extremely well. I did get this sense of, even though I was using 5.1.2, so everything was to the side or above me, I felt there was stuff going on behind me, and it really is very effective.
Yeah.
And of course, the YPAO, it's not quite as sophisticated as a Dirac Live or something like that, but it uses 8 mic positions and gives a pretty good result at the end of it. I was quite pleased with it. And I'm sure you would concur with this, Phil, with the A6A. I thought dialogue intelligibility in real world listening scenarios was excellent, actually quite crystalline. And what really surprised me was how good it was at steering objects and effects. It was really, really precise.
Yeah, no, very, very good. And it's interesting what you say about YPAO. It's something I'll leave switched off. Obviously, in a review, you test it just to see how much. But I always leave it off because it's not advanced enough. And I know my room so well now That's going to change, obviously, when I move to a new one. But I've been in here, nearly 20 years, and you know exactly how the room behaves and so on. Yeah, it's one of the weaker points, but like you say, in terms of sound quality, I've always been impressed with Yamaha. The Cinema DSP stuff, if you like that kind of thing, if you want to listen in a jazz club in Munich or whatever, then good on you. Go away, do it. It'll do that thing, whether you agree with it or not.
That's been in their processors since
it has.
the late 80s.
The first A1 that I had, DSP A1, it had all of those, and it was great back then. It was fantastic. I think we're a little bit more advanced these days, and our tastes have changed quite a bit. But it's nice still to have that in there. And like you say, Surround AI is very, very clever. And the virtual speakers are very, very clever. Manufacturers have all got their own little version of this, but yeah, it's clever technology in there.
I found the musical character slightly trebly. I'm not quite sure why that was, if that's my room or whatever. It wasn't a sibilance or a shrillness, but a little on the trebly side. Worth bearing in mind as far as the competition, because I did not put any alternatives within the price range or the category, but it is, and this was highlighted by Nobler on the forum, that the Denon ABC X3800H has, of course, 9 channels of amplification and costs £200 less. So that is worth bearing in mind. I also find the current slate of Yamaha receivers to look a little cheap on the front, and I didn't like the small front panel display either. I think the Denons still try to emulate what used to look like good quality hi-fi. Yamaha has kind of steered quite away from that, I think.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of guilty of this, aren't we? Because we sometimes say, I wish AV manufacturers would take a little bit of a chance with design and change up the traditional, screen in the middle and the dials left and
then
right,
we hate it when they do.
And then we hate it when they do it.
No, and I still haven't forgiven them for getting rid of orange displays. So no, you with AV receivers in particular, you are 100% downed if you do and damned if you don't. So I have enormous sympathy for the house AV brands and how they move the most reactionary design group imaginable in any direction at all. I don't think that anyone has made a beautiful AV receiver in a very, very long time. That is the reality of it. I think I'm going to show my age here. The last good looking AV receiver was the Marantz SR12, and that's 20 years ago. So yeah, it's been a while. It's just one of those things. I'd suggest a rack which it vents well at the back and is covered at the front, and you can control these things by apps. You don't need IR line of sight. Just hide the damn thing away because it's hideous.
Anyway, Martin's review of the A4A from Yamaha, it is up on AVForums. Go have a read if you want to get a little bit more in depth with Martin's thoughts on that receiver. They've always been a strong brand, Yamaha. They've been around forever. They were right at the start of the whole Dolby Pro Logic movement back in the day when I first got into this hobby back in the early 90s, and they've been strong ever since. They've always been around.
And they have all that prowess, they make...
the one thing is they make instruments, so they should know what instruments sound like. So, that's always been a strong point for them. They also make motorbikes, and they know what motorbikes should sound like as well.